First light crept over the red buttes of the Badlands, painting the rugged terrain in rose and gold. Lieutenant Amelia Rhodes consulted her map under the dim glow of her headlamp, noting the gentle slope of the ravine ahead. She led 15 soldiers, carrying M4 carbines, GPS units, and field packs, down the dusty track that cut through grassland punctuated by hoodoos and sagebrush. The morning air was cool and still, broken only by the soft slap of combat boots on hard-packed earth. Specialist Torres scanned the horizon with binoculars, spotting prairie dogs darting from burrows, while Corporal Nguyen checked his compass for drift. Private First Class Davis hummed a cocky tune under his breath, betting Remington he'd bag a buffalo steak on their next hunting break. Banter that drew grins, but also reminded them this routine reconnaissance was still training for the real dangers of combat. Their orders were clear: chart potential enemy approaches through these unmarked badlands and map any obstacles, trenches, ravines, or debris fields before the armored column moved through. No mines had been reported in this sector since the armistice, and mine clearance teams had swept major routes the previous year. Confidence fluttered through the platoon as they crossed the ravine's rim at 0705 hours, sunlight now gilding the grass in a warm glow. Lieutenant Rhodes paused at a weather-worn marker, an old surveyor's post half buried in drift sand. She radioed Company HQ. Phase 1 complete, cutting south toward grid point 14R. No sign of enemy or hazards. Static crackled, then the operator's calm voice. Copy that, night platoon. Proceed on grid. The platoon descended into the ravine, boots crunching over loose shale. Echoes of dripping water from hidden seep pools accompanied their steps. Specialist Torres knelt to inspect a suspiciously angular rock, turning to reveal the corroded edge of a World War II shell casing, yet nothing more. Satisfied, Rhodes signaled them onward. They fanned out slightly, scanning every ridge and hollow for signs of trouble, unaware that the ground beneath them held a far deadlier secret, one that only the thunderous approach of an untamed herd would reveal. At exactly 0800 hours, the platoon's handheld seismograph, clipped to Specialist Torres's belt, registered a subtle vibration, a low-frequency thrum that rippled through the Badlands hardpan. Torres froze mid-step, glancing back at Lieutenant Rhodes, who raised an eyebrow in question. The ground's trembling persisted in a steady cadence. Thud, 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 each pulse separated by roughly 0.8 seconds. Corporal Nguyen pressed an ear to the earth, feeling the resonance in his boots. Sounds like artillery, he muttered, the word tasting strange in the silent dawn. But no artillery map showed any friendly exercises this far west, and no enemy forces had held these old trenches in years. The soldiers formed a tight defensive circle, scanning the horizon for smoke or flash. The next tremor struck with greater force, dislodging pebbles from the ravine wall and sending a shower of dust into the cool air. Private Davis's radio crackled with static as he keyed the mic. Echo team to night platoon. Did you feel that? Silence answered. The lack of reply was more unsettling than acknowledgement. Lieutenant Rhodes brought the platoon to a halt at the ravine's lowest point, where wind-etched stones created a natural amphitheater. Every soldier crouched, fingers near triggers, eyes on the empty butte tops. Then, over the thudding earth beats, came a distant but growing rumble. Not mechanical, not human, but organic. The synchronized pounding of countless hooves. In the dim light, 24 bison emerged atop the ridge, massive forms outlined against a pale sky. Their thunderous approach drowned out the seismograph's faint clicks as the herd descended in a surging wave of muscle and dust. Lieutenant Rhodes steadied her rifle, heart pounding. This was no scripted exercise. As the herd's leading edge thundered past, the both men and beast churned the ravine floor, each mighty hoofprint echoing the very tremors that had warned the patrol to stand down, moments before nature's own artillery charged through the Badlands. The first massive bull appeared over the ridge's lip at 0803 hours, a hulking silhouette against the pale sky. Almost instantly, the ground reverberated as if an invisible drumbeat had begun. Thousands of hooves, striking earth in unison. The platoon's seismograph spiked, needles dancing wildly as the bison herd poured into the ravine. Lieutenant Rhodes instinctively threw her platoon into a defensive arc, backs to the towering Badlands walls. Dust and grit stung their eyes as the lead animals thundered past at a steady trot, each bull followed by cow and calf in a rolling brown wave. Specialist Torres gripped his rifle with white-knuckled fingers, awed by the raw power surging through the narrow ravine. The herd spanned nearly 80 animals, majestic creatures whose shaggy manes and massive shoulder humps caught the sunrise. The thunder of their passage was deafening. Sound waves bounced from canyon walls, creating a deep, rolling echo that seemed to chase the bison onward. Boots stamped and helmets rattled as earth and fragmented sagebrush flew in every direction. Corporal Nguyen, eyes wide, shouted above the din. "They're migrating south, straight through us!" The soldiers crouched, weapons slung safely, respecting the creature's right of way. A rogue calf separated from its mother for a heartbeat, but a matron cow swept it back into line with a gentle nudge from her flank. Within 30 seconds, the herd had stampeded past, dust clouds billowing like living walls in their wake. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the thunderous advance receded. The wind-blown dust settled into ghostly tendrils, revealing the ravine floor scarred by dozens of fresh hoofprints and pounded patches of earth. Lieutenant Rhodes exhaled, her wall of soldiers relaxing their guard. "Stand fast," she ordered, voice steady. "That herd just saved our lives. Watch the ground." In the quiet that followed, they knelt to examine the churned soil, realizing that where bison hooves had broken and flipped, the earth lay clues to a far deadlier danger, one they would have blindly walked into if not for the herd's unstoppable rush. Lieutenant Rhodes waited until the last thunderous hoofbeat faded, then held up a gloved hand to signal her platoon to advance. The wind-blown dust swirled in settling eddies, revealing the ravine floor's newly churned surface, mottled with upturned clods of earth and fragments of sagebrush. Corporal Nguyen was the first to spot the anomaly. Kneeling, he brushed away loose soil with a trembling hand and gasped. There, half exposed by the bison's weight, lay a gleaming metal rim, the curved edge of a buried anti-tank mine, its reflective steel casing catching the morning sun. Nearby, another soldier uncovered a second mine, its detonator pin protruding like a silent warning. "Lieutenant, mines!" Nguyen's voice cracked. Around them, the soldiers froze, recalling the countless boots that would have marched straight over this hidden field. Specialist Torres keyed his radio with a steady finger. "Night platoon to Company HQ, Minefield discovered at grid 14R, ravine floor." Abort route, requesting EOD Rhodes, remained calm, her eyes scanning the damaged ground. More silver glints appeared as the platoon edged forward. Anti-personnel devices, once buried and forgotten beneath years of sediment, now laid bare by nature's heavy cavalry. The herd stampede had upended dozens of mines, 28 in all, marking a lethal gauntlet that would have cut off any patrol unwary enough to proceed. Carefully, Rhodes directed her men to mark each mine with bright surveyor's tape and to place warning stakes around the perimeter. As the platoon backed away to safe ground on a grassy knoll above the ravine, a collective realization struck them. They owed their lives to the bison herd's thunderous charge. What seemed at first a random migration revealed itself as nature's own early warning system, transforming a routine patrol into a story of survival guided by the wild heart of the plains. By 0830 hours, the dust had fully settled, revealing a deadly carpet of 28 exposed mines, anti-tank and anti-personnel models, scattered across the ravine floor. Lieutenant Rhodes ordered the platoon to establish a 100-meter security perimeter on the ravine's rim. Soldiers laid out reflective hazard tape and drove stakes at 10-meter intervals, while Corporal Nguyen radioed for explosive ordnance disposal EOD support. Within 40 minutes, an EOD team arrived via Humvee convoy from Fort Gallatin's Ordnance Depot. The four-man squad, clad in heavy blast suits and armed with ground-penetrating radar wands, disembarked at 0910 hours. Team leader Staff Sergeant Carrington surveyed the marked field, nodding appreciatively. "Good work on the tape. Those stakes saved us time." Carrington divided the team into two elements, one to render safe the anti-tank mines, the other to handle the smaller anti-personnel devices. Using calibrated rod probes, they confirmed each mine's type and orientation. At 0925 hours, Specialist Evans placed a demo charge on the first anti-tank mine's detonator housing. A controlled blast echoed through the ravine, vaporizing metal and earth in a 5-meter radius. Meanwhile, Sergeant Patel swept the anti-personnel mines with precision shears, severing firing pins before gently lifting each device for safe disposal. By 10:40 hours, all 28 mines had been neutralized, and the once hidden minefield lay rendered inert. The EOD team collected fragments of casings as forensic evidence, ensuring each device's serial number matched archival records of wartime deployments. With the threat removed, Lieutenant Rhodes escorted the EOD team to the ravine's edge. She handed Carrington the updated grid coordinates: latitude 45.1234 degrees north, longitude negative 103.5678 degrees west, and the exact dimensions of the minefield, approximately 120 meters by 45 meters. "We'll overlay your clearance map onto our patrol routes," she said. Carrington saluted. "Glad we were here in time." As the sun climbed toward noon, Night Platoon resumed its patrol along a newly plotted path, mindful of the minefield's former boundary. Rhodes updated her reconnaissance report. Bison-induced minefield detection prevented potential casualties. Recommend permanent warning markers and satellite survey follow-up. In the hushed relief that followed, the soldiers shared quiet acknowledgments of the extraordinary turn of events. The thundering herd that charged through the ravine had unwittingly unveiled a hidden threat, transforming a routine mission into a stark testament to nature's power, and leaving behind a protocol that would honor the bison's role in saving countless lives. By early afternoon, the minefield lay silent and inert beneath the hot sun. Staff Sergeant Carrington's EOD team had cleared every device, packing away mine fragments and stowing their gear in the Humvee. Lieutenant Rhodes gathered her platoon on the ravine's southern rim, the once hidden danger now marked by bright hazard tape fluttering in the breeze. She consulted her GPS tablet, overlaying the patrol map with the freshly charted minefield boundary. An irregular oval roughly 120 meters long by 45 meters wide, centered at grid 14R. "From now on," she told her soldiers, voice low but firm, "this sector is off limits. We'll install permanent warning signs at each approach path, and satellite recon will confirm no other fields lie hidden." Corporal Nguyen and Specialist Torres set to work hammering heavy steel stakes every 50 meters along the perimeter. Each stake bore a steel placard, embossed with the International Mine Warning symbol, a skull above crossed rifles. The soldiers space-leveled each stake to ensure visibility even in fog or dust storms. The buttes here could whip up sudden gusts that reduced visibility to near zero. When the last placard was secured, Rhodes stood back and surveyed their work. The ravine, once a deceptively benign route, now carried clear visual warnings enforced by modern technology. She radioed Company HQ. "Night Platoon has established permanent minefield markers. Recommend follow-up satellite imagery for adjacent sectors." The reply crackled with approval. "Copy that. Solid work, Lieutenant." As the platoon moved out along the new safe corridor, wary steps on the rocky trail, a distant rumble echoed across the Badlands. Torres glanced over his shoulder, half expecting another herd of bison. Rhodes allowed herself a small smile. Nature's wild stampede had uncovered the threat, but human diligence ensured it would never claim another life. By dusk, the battalion's operations center received the updated patrol maps, complete with the minefield perimeter and warning sign coordinates. Rhodes added a final note to her report. "When steel hoof met hidden steel, the plains spoke our warning. Bison lives saved ours. May these signs honor their role and guide us safely forward." And with that, the Badlands fell into twilight calm, its secrets laid bare, and its trails once again safe for passing boots. 2 days after the minefield clearance, Fort Gallatin's parade ground buzzed with ceremony. Soldiers in dress uniforms assembled beneath fluttering unit flags, their polished boots clicking on the asphalt. Families, local ranchers, and even wildlife biologists from the Badlands Conservation Service gathered to witness the dedication of a new memorial, one unlike any other on post. Lieutenant Rhodes and Staff Sergeant Carrington led the procession to the monument's site, a weathered sandstone pedestal nestled at the edge of the base's training area, overlooking the very ravine where the herd had thundered through. Atop the pedestal stood a bronze relief of a charging bison, hooves airborne, mane and tail sculpted to convey movement and power. Beneath, an inscription read, "In eternal gratitude to the Badlands Bison, whose stampede revealed the hidden minefield and saved American troops. March 12th, 2025. Colonel Hartley, base commander, stepped forward and tapped the bronze plaque with the flat of his saber. Today, we honor our four-legged guardians of the plains, he declared, voice carrying over the assembled ranks. Their instinctive passage through danger became our shield. May we never forget the lives preserved by their thunderous charge. A lone bugler played taps, its mournful notes echoing off nearby buttes. Then, children from the base's cadet program laid wreaths of prairie grasses and wildflowers, blue flax, Indian paintbrush, and prickly pear blooms at the monument's base. Rancher Thomas Red Elk, whose family had grazed cattle alongside the free-roaming bison for generations, offered a blessing in the Lakota tongue, thanking the herd for their unexpected act of service. As the sun dipped low, the bronze bison seemed to come alive, its form flickering in the golden light. Rhodes and Carrington stood in respectful silence, thinking back to the moment when the earth had first trembled, only to reveal a deadly threat hidden beneath. They imagined the herd's steady march across the ravine, innocent in intent, yet pivotal in outcome. Each hoofbeat, a life-saving alert. When the ceremony concluded, soldiers and civilians alike drifted away, casting one last glance at the monument that bridged nature and duty. In the days that followed, new recruits paused by the pedestal during training walks, touching its cool bronze and tracing the bison's silhouette. And out on the Badlands' windswept slopes, the real herd still roamed, unaware of their honored place in human memory, yet forever woven into the story of survival they had unwittingly ensured.